Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Scaling Station podcast, where we highlight how real estate and prop tech leaders are rethinking the way deals get done. I'm your host, Will Rodosky, and today I'm joined by Reader Wang, CEO and co-founder at Propaya. Reader, thanks for joining me. How's it going?
Well, thanks for having me. Super glad to be here. It's going well. As a startup founder, we're busy every week, every day. It's like a different fight, but it's all for good fun.
I love it. I've been really looking forward to this. Maybe to start, if you don't mind just telling myself and the audience a bit about your background, then we can dive into Papaya.
I come from a very interesting background. I come from the aerospace industry. I did my undergrad in aerospace engineering and music theory. So it's like
Yeah,
a music plus aerospace hardware going on. And then I did my grad school at Stanford, also in aerospace engineering. It's very deep tech, hardware, aerospace engineering through and through. But now I'm doing prop tech, like real estate software. So it's kind of a change for me.
absolutely. And that's what brought us here today, and really excited to dive into Papaya. I guess we could start. Was there an aha moment, any one thing that inspired you to launch?
Right, absolutely. This was a long time ago. So my family immigrated from China to the US around 2015. Back in China, my mom was a medical doctor. And when we immigrated here, she couldn't, like her license doesn't transfer, so she couldn't practice here anymore. So she became a realtor. We started looking at condos, kind of like we settled in the Chicago area. So we started looking at condos around in the Chicago area, started looking at investing opportunities. And then a lot of our Chinese family friends who heard about this were also interested in investing. So we just kind of like being like the agent and the boots on the ground. We started helping people buy and rent out condos. After a couple of years, we have about 70 rental properties under our management. It's just my mom, sometimes my dad, and I help out. It's literally like a mom and pop shop. Being the better English speaker in the family, I often handle the more difficult tenants, the paperwork, and dealing with government and other documents. So that's when I start to see, even for a small mom and pop shops, residential, managing all these paperwork, figuring out what's in a lease, it's really, really, really painful. We just had like really old school Excel sheet to track everyone, and it's often out of date. We always forgot who's moving in, who's moving out, when is like these like inspection fees due. And there will be times where we just get a letter from somebody and say, hey, you own this much, and here's a $300 late fee. And that was frustrating. So I just think to myself, okay, like as an engineer, there's got to be a better way of doing this. There's got to be a better way of, taking care of these these back office work. So that's kind of how I had this vague idea of like, oh, only if you can have a software where you can take a picture of a lease and then we populate it into some kind of database. You take a picture of a letter, of a notice, we transform that into a Google Calendar notice. If you take a picture of a receipt, we'll put it in a ledger. Like just simple back office assistant, things like that would make property managers' life so much easier. So that's how I originally get started with like, okay, like real estate software.
Yeah.
It's a real pain that I felt, and that's something I feel could help a lot of people.
I was just going to say you were solving an actual problem, and I wasn't aware of your introduction to real estate as a whole. So I really like that. Not only were you dealing with the tricky tenants, but you also had to read the entire lease. Is that correct?
Well, for residential, the leases are a lot simpler, but
True.
still, right? Like we have to prepare the lease, and we need to make sure that everything's checked correctly. And if there's like a argument or like a dispute, you need to go back and look at the original legal document. So yes, there is a lot of work, and to know 70 leases in and out, like it's really hard.
Absolutely. I think it's an important distinction between residential and CRE.
Oh, sure.
Could you explain why lease abstraction is such a headache in CRE?
Right. There is a transition here. We started off as a residential tool, but then we realized that a lot of commercial real estate people start coming to me and were like, hey, what you're doing for residential is cool, but if you can do the same thing for commercial, it will be awesome. It will save a lot more pain because people are currently paying more than $100 outsourcing to an offshore, like human centered, doing lease abstraction. It'll take like a couple days to come back with a form, and sometimes like the quality cannot be guaranteed. The reason why people are still doing this, people are still paying big money, is for a couple of reasons. One, commercial lease are just inherently valuable in a sense that they have a lot of money value behind it. You're talking about 100,000 square foot warehouses on that one document. So you really don't want, like, compared to like a $2,000 like monthly rent, like residential, like this is humongous. So anything you missed, it could be a big deal. For example, say if you missed a free rent somewhere on a lease that says, hey, you got $5 per square foot of free rent on this month or on this date, and you have $100,000 square foot warehouse, that's $500,000 that you just missed. So people don't want to miss that. And that's why people really want to give the scrutiny that the lease deserves. That's number one, because there's a lot of money behind it. Two is commercial real estate leases are inherently complex. Residential lease is what, 20, 30 pages with all of the pamphlets and whatever, and that's pretty much it. Whereas the commercial real estate lease could easily go to 60, 80, 100 pages with all the amendments. You were talking about these like Safeway, Walmart, Target leases they've been around for 20, 30 years. And it lists out like basically every single scenario that could happen to this place, right? What if the government decided to build a highway on top of this building? What if it burned down? What if the landlord couldn't pay its loans? It's not just about the prices the tenant pay, the concessions, the responsibilities of both parties. It's also a lot of just case scenario. So if A happens, what would happen, right? Who actually owns the property now? So then you're not just talking about the two party who is kind of involved in this lease. It's not just the tenant and the landlord. Say if you are a commercial loan broker and you want to lend money to the landlord, you might want to check their current lease too, because what if the landlord couldn't pay off their loan? Does the loan broker or the bank actually take the property, or does the tenant actually have first right to buy off the property? And that makes a big difference. So then you're talking about not just landlord and tenants need to understand this lease. You're talking about all the middlemen that also need to understand this lease whenever people are buying, selling, leasing, or renting, right? So you have a lot more players dealing with a lot more complicated documents that has a lot more value in it. That's why people are paying big money to hire other people to read this document.
Right. 100%. And wouldn't you say, from a valuation standpoint, lenders, appraisers, that lease is much more important, of course, in the commercial setting? But I like how you laid out some alternatives, like maybe an offshore lease abstraction review, or yeah, I'm sure there's other alternatives out there. But wanted to ask, really how Propaya works today and what's different about your approach.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, commercial real estate has been around since we live in buildings or since we work in buildings. And, we have been dealing with leases and probably dealing with lease abstraction for a very long time. And traditionally, like you said, it's all just humans, whether we outsource it to cheaper labor or we hire interns or we just, spend the money and have like highly trained professionals, lawyers read these documents. At the end of the day, it's just human reading documents. That game has changed recently because of AI, because of the technology that we have today. I like to say that as of today, right, we're recording this in 2025. AI, it's kind of like it's a really good entry level employee with kind of an IQ of a 16-year-old, whereas they can do a lot of basic job, but there's still a lot of like deficiency that needs work. That being said, it's really, really good at reading words and summarizing them. So recently, that's why like using AI in lease abstraction is finally available. So back to your question, what do we do here at Propaya? It's very simple. We have a zero-shot lease abstraction solution. What it means is that we don't have to pre-train on your lease. All you have to do is drag and drop your lease on our platform. Our software will read the lease for you, and abstract it and put out in like a nice lease abstraction form for you to send out to your client within 2 minutes. This is all automated to eliminate the fear of like AI black box, because we know that sometimes ChatGPT do make things up. We cite our sources. We tell you exactly where we get all our like information from. You can see for yourself. If you don't like the answer or want to tweak it, you can change it. So that's how we show our work, right? Be like, okay, not only we get it, we tell you where we get it from, so you can have a peace of mind.
That's huge. And all those would be coming right from the lease, of course. So it puts which page or which section it's actually pointed from.
Absolutely.
Are you seeing stronger adoption with any type of profile within commercial real estate?
It really depends on the service that we offer. We started off as a zero-shot lease abstraction. We started the tool very simple, where you just drop in lease and we spit out the lease abstraction, replacing the 5 to 7 days of human work. People who would really need that are the people who need information on lease quickly. So you're talking about people who work transactionally, like brokers and commercial loan brokers. Yeah. So like traditional CRE, let's say tenant rep brokers. Let's say if you onboard a tenant, you want to understand exactly what's in their portfolio within a day. They use us quite often, and also other brokers who just like gets onboarded with a big file they need to understand. Now we're also offering a new feature. That's why I was so excited this week. We finally get to chat with your document. We call it Lease GPT. Please don't sue us. Open it. But it's kind of self-explanatory of what it does. It's a chat bot. It's a ChatGPT like interface, but instead of just the functionality of ChatGPT, it also knows your lease. So you can ask specific, very interesting questions. It's not just, hey, what's the average square foot? What is the net effective rent? You can also ask, hey, list the top 5 lease tenant friendly clauses, right? I'm a tenant. What are the things that are not favorable to me? There will be some logic where our lease GPT will actually like give you these clauses and cite sources too. So it becomes a lot more open-ended than just a drag and drop and the lease abstraction. It becomes more interactive. By pushing this and talking to a lot of our customers, we're starting seeing like adoptions, not just in the transactional space, but in the tenant space. Let's say head of real estate, they probably don't care about lease abstraction per se, because they don't make a lot of changes over there, although they do need to track when it's coming up. That's why these chat with their document is very important. So they can just ask, hey, what's my next task? What's my next renewal options? So what is the next thing I need to exercise? Or like, what are the clauses that are like below market average, right?
Right.
Yeah. So it really unlocks a lot of potential.
So with that, is it shifting more from one-off transactions for this specific property and able to be utilized more effectively across a portfolio or multiple properties? Is that the vision?
Absolutely. Yes, that is the idea. So it goes from a one-off lease abstraction to, upload a lease. We not only abstract and give you the data, but also you can ask anything regarding this document. Now you have multiple documents. We can build a database for you. But now let's add another chat function. Let's say chat with your portfolio. That would be really powerful, because you can do a mega rent roll or a mega lease comp. It's every single data point you have ever had in that lease, and you can query that.
Wow, that's amazing. And then lease comps and this type of lease data is some of the hardest to find and source. But if you've got it, it takes hours on hours or tens of money. So that's really damn cool. Last time we spoke, you mentioned something I really liked, and that was AI should handle the facts, humans focus on deals. Just wondering if you could expand on that a bit or speak to the AI yet human-led approach within real estate.
Yeah, absolutely. This is my take coming from a nerdy engineering background. What I find amazing as I start to work more in the commercial real estate community is that what makes everybody in this community amazing is the human connection. That is actually essential to closing a deal. At the end of the day, nobody's going to close a giant deal of a warehouse because you have the right data. It's because I trust you as a broker. And I know you as a broker trust the other broker and trust the landlord. And so there's this understanding that was built so we can actually sign that deal. That being said, I feel like at today's day and age, data is the basic thing that you need to have, right? You need to know what the market's like. You need to know how your product compares to the market. You need to know where to anchor. You need to know what's a good deal and what's not to start the conversation. But what really, really hit the nail in the head is you actually put that human touch on there. So I say a average CRE person today would embrace technology, embrace AI, and use smart tools and take like manual labor off their plate. But a really good CRE person would take that time off and spend more time connecting with other humans and sealing that deal, because that's what we do best, is being humans.
I love that. I think the theme I'm hearing with a lot of prop tech founders is, of course, AI is not going to replace humans in real estate, but free up time so they can focus on being at a showing or with their team and trying to automate some of the more tedious manual processes, which Propaya seems to be doing.
Yeah. Let us nerdy tech bros figure out a solution for you so nobody have to do boring data entry work ever, right?
I love that. Cool. Where do you see Propaya, say, 12 to 18 months from now?
So, as I mentioned before, we now have this chat with your lease function, and very soon we'll have a chat with your portfolio function. My goal is to have everyone who's currently and will be using ChatGPT in a lease analysis function. Like if you use ChatGPT to ask CRE related questions or to do lease analysis or to summarize a lease, which arguably you shouldn't be doing because they train on your data. So I'm not sure if your clients would be happy about it. My goal is to have all of these folks use Propaya because we are data secured. Whatever you put in the chat or whatever we abstract, the LLM service that we use actually do not take your data. The data stop with us. So it's between our clients and us. We will build a portfolio for you, right? We will know your portfolio, we'll know your lease. So you will have like a ChatGPT agent tailored to you. So there's really no reason why people should use ChatGPT for now.
100%. And I assume the LLM can train itself or have some sense of memory to better answer
Yes,
questions.
absolutely. We cache the conversation history, so we just pick up where you left off.
Amazing. Cool. And I think you kind of spoke to this in sharing that real estate will always be human led, but perhaps tech enabled. But for brokers, investors, landlords listening, what advice would you give them about preparing for a more data driven future?
Know your data, know what current software is capable, work smarter, not harder, spend more time being human. That's how you close deals. The more time you can go out, pitch to people, connect with people, the more likely you're going to succeed. The war is not going to win sitting in a war room trying to strategize and look at the data. The war is going to be won by people who actually go out and engage. So let us do the boring work.
Yep, 100%. Cool. And for the audience, if they want to follow along, are you on LinkedIn or maybe your website? I'll leave those links in the description if you don't mind just sharing. Yeah.
Yeah. Follow me on LinkedIn, Reader Wang. Should be pretty easy to look up. There aren't that many people named Reader, Reader. Check out our website, propaya.com. That's Propaya, propaya.com. And if you're interested, our product is self-serviceable, but we're always happy to hop on a call and understand your exact needs so we can tailor our products to you. There's a try it out and schedule a call with us. I or my CTO are happy to hop on a meeting and chat a little bit.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Reader. I'll leave those links in the description, but really appreciate you coming on and sharing.
Thank you for having me, Will. This is great.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for tuning in to another episode. See you next time.
Bye-bye.